Hello and welcome back. This is episode 8 of Ripples. I am your co host, Michael Drinda, and joined with me, as always, is the lovely, the hairless Greg Skoman.
I'm always hairless, mate. What are you talking about? I haven't had hair in, well, let's not talk about
All
that.
right, so good couple of episodes that we've had now with some guests. We had Aaron Francis on, we had Rissy Jackson on. We have another guest lined up for next episode. But this week, we thought we would just sit down and touch base on where we're at with our own things, probably more specifically, Greg. But I have some progress on Laracon AU branding for this year as well to talk about. Not just the branding, but like the whole conference persona, I suppose, if you want to use some kind of marketing terminology to talk about where we're at. So, Nucleus, who are our branding partner for Laracon Australia, are putting together the finishing touches on website and marketing bits and pieces and all of that kind of stuff. But I do have some vague details to talk about. Still no venue announcement at this stage, but yeah, we can talk a little bit about in more detail, I suppose, what the conference is going to look like this year and just what we're trying to achieve in terms of providing the networking opportunities and the connectedness around the event, not just like the two conference days themselves. But before we dip into all of that, Greg, how have you been with your rippling?
Yeah, it's a funny time of year actually. I think everyone's coming into budget season, so there's a lot of people who are interested in talking, but they're not necessarily interested in putting their hand in their wallet
Hmm.
at the moment. So I'm actually caught up with a former colleague that I used to work with back at Arup, which is a big international consulting engineering firm that I worked in for a long while.
Hmm.
He runs a consultancy himself now and has a relatively large engineering team. Within that, we sat down for coffee and had a talk, and that kind of prompted me to actually put a rate guide together because so far everything has just been a dirty spreadsheet,
Yeah.
sort of bootstrapping stuff. So put a bit of effort into a rate guide, which kind of really helped coalesce some of the things that I want to be talking about,
Hmm.
um, which was good because it lets me have a consistent message when I'm talking to people. I can sort of say, this is the stuff that I do, this is the stuff that I don't do. Like,
Hmm.
I'm not going to be your CTO for hire.
Yeah.
I'm just here for coaching and specifically coaching in these areas. So that
Hmm.
was really good. Um, I've got a couple of clients now that are kind of getting very close to the end of their engagement and winding up. Um, at least one of them may turn into a renewal. I'm hoping that will be the case. We've had some really, really productive conversations. It's been um, mutually beneficial, I think, to have those chats because his particular challenges, challenges that I've probably definitely faced in the past but haven't faced recently. So it's sort of
Hmm.
forcing me to reach back into the bag of tricks and put myself in the shoes of what would slightly earlier at ISIC plant Greg be doing versus 7 years on. Um,
Yeah.
so that's going really well. I've got some great feedback as well from the people I've been working with,
Good.
which is awesome. Um, and we've also sort of tangentially to this whole thing, we've got a new sponsor for the Brisbane Laravel meetup, and we've teed that up. I'll be speaking at the Brisbane Laravel meetup,
Mm.
sort of maybe potentially trialing a talk that I have submitted for Laracon AU. It wouldn't be the exact same talk, but just to kind of like
Yeah.
see how some ideas work. And it looks like it's going to be a big one. So there'll be plenty of networking opportunities there to see whether or not um, anyone
Okay,
needs a
good.
hand. The topic's kind of, well, it's all public knowledge, I guess. The topic's actually looking at the first habit that I spoke about in at Laracon AU and digging into that deeply.
Hmm.
One of the one of the challenges I've had, and it's also become a bit of a hook, is that because the talk was 7 things in 30 minutes, right? It's like a couple of minutes per thing. So
Yeah.
there's a lot of what I think you should be doing, but not a lot of how I think you should be doing it. So that's kind of
Hmm.
people have come up to me and said, "Well, how do you? That sounds really interesting. How do you do that thing?" And this this talk's kind of digging a little bit more into how do you work in small steps, like some specific strategies to go
Yeah.
about doing that, because it's really easy to say, hey, you should work in small steps. You should commit at least, like everyone should be committing daily. All of those
Yeah.
daily commits should be going into production.
Hmm.
But how you actually do that, it's easy to say. It's not easy to do. So
Yeah.
going through,
Yeah. And I think I saw a bit of commentary and feedback on your talk specifically around, it's great to stand on stage and give a talk about this, but to actually be able to give context and to
mm,
dive deeper on these things is a good idea as well. And it gives you some stuff to kind of go deep on, to show that these are not just very high level
mm,
things. These are actual lived experiences that, we have actually done these things and this is how we've got there, which, in the context of a 30-minute talk is not really something that you can go deep on if you want to, hit all your points. And I had someone, someone submitted this year for 2024 to speak, and they're like, here's 10 plus things. I'm like, no, 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 you need to narrow it down. This kind of talk, I think Jeffrey Way has actually said this kind of stuff in the past, where the kind of talks that are really great to give at conferences in a lot of situations is like, here are 5 things that you can do with Laravel, or here are 5 things
mm.
you can do with form requests, that kind of stuff, to pick out 5 key things. And if you have 10 ideas, that's great, but pick the 5 really good ones, because you found last year that 7 was hard to cram in
Yeah, seven
into
was
30
ambitious,
minutes.
and I mean it's only seven because I was playing on the book title, right? I was, it was, you know, if I had have said Six Habits, it kind of would have thought like I think don't think it would have seemed as appealing, because it was pretty obvious what, you
Right.
know in the talk title, like what I was getting at. But it was ambitious, and it took a lot
Yeah.
of refinement. I think my first pass at that talk was like an hour and a half. So I've had to take an hour and a half worth of content and like
Yeah.
distill it into half an hour, which I think gives
Yeah.
people a taste. And I think it's, I hope that the message I got across was that we're actually doing this. This is actually possible. Here's a little bit of
Yeah.
evidence that shows that we're doing this. But
Hmm.
the stuff that hit the cutting room floor was the how.
Yeah.
Because like
Yeah.
I could probably talk for 2 hours on how you build continuous deployment pipelines. It's a big, in
Sure.
and of itself, is a massive topic. Um,
Each
and
of
I was like,
those things are their own topic, their own conference talk,
yeah,
even like, if you are creative, you could look at Greg's talk from last year and you could poach one of those 7 ideas and
mm,
dive deeper into it and submit it as your own talk. So
mm,
yeah, I think there's definitely opportunities there, to build on, to extrapolate from, to, steal and augment and submit your own talk on the back. Greg said something really interesting, or another speaker said something really interesting about this in passing, pull out a whole other topic of,
yeah.
presentation there as well. So
And look, our way of doing it, and my way of doing it, is just one way of doing it. There are like probably, I mean, even if I was to like, and I've got a couple of talks in for Laracon AU right now. I don't know if any of them will get selected, or if the one that I recently posted will get selected. Who knows? But even if that talk did get selected, again, in half an hour, I'm just going to be talking about the specific strategies that worked for us in that space.
mhm.
But that's not to say that other people might not have different ideas, might not have competing ideas, or even conflicting ideas on that.
Mhm.
And I'm all about it. I want to know better ways of approaching it. My sort of view on this stuff is that at the moment, this is my best understanding of how to build software and how to build a high
Yeah.
performing team. But I don't know that it's the only way or the best way generally. I don't think anyone does. So, the more ideas that you can get out there, even if they're in complete opposition, and I mean, I think,
Mhm.
I didn't so much see it at Laracon AU, but have seen it at conferences before, where you almost have two speakers back to back who are saying completely the opposite things, and they're all like,
Yeah.
and that's kind of really interesting because you're seeing both sides of that conversation. So,
Mhm.
like, there's no like set narrative here where everyone's
Yeah.
like agreeing
That's
with each
right.
other, and I think that
It's
disagreement
also,
is useful.
yeah, I think the disagreement is useful. It gives people, perspectives of both sides of the aisle, or, multiple angles of the same thing. Looking around a center point, everyone kind of with their own view of that thing. I think it can be good, but it's a fine line to walk, especially when you don't know exactly what speakers are going to say necessarily. You put two talks up. against each other that are conflicting or competing or opposite sides of the spectrum. And it's like, is there going to be? We had a couple of years ago a couple of talks that like I didn't think much of it at the time, but there were a couple of talks that kind of lent on each other a little bit, that that had to deal with post conference. So it was, yeah, it's always a delicate thing to do, and it depends on who's presenting and how they present it in terms of
Yeah.
how that goes. So
I think
yeah,
also too, like in a 30-minute talk, and I tweeted off the back of one of your posts about submitting that, even though I don't have any sway on anyone getting a slot, that's 100% Michael's world. But I want everyone to have the opportunity if they've got to talk. So if people were sitting on the fence about
mm,
it, I sort of opened my DMs and said, "Hey, just reach out." And someone did reach out, and I had a couple of people reach out actually, which is probably an interesting topic in itself. Um, but one of them sort of asking and gave me like a list of talk ideas that he had. I said they all sound really great, but in my opinion, in a 30-minute talk, there's two people. There's two groups that you really need to get the attention of. The first group is Michael. You need to get his attention in the brief. Otherwise, like if it's not, if it doesn't seem interesting or exciting, it could be the most interesting and exciting talk possible. If it's not going to get
yeah,
selected. And then you have to hook the audience. And one surefire way of doing this is to be a bit edgy, be a little bit controversial, be a little bit opinionated. And that kind of does mean that in some regards, you will create some division in the audience. And I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually think
yeah,
that's something
yeah,
you want people to think, right? You want people to be, you know, to get mad and I'm going to go talk to that guy after the talk and I'm going to,
yeah,
it's that kind of thing that gets people to listen. I think people will listen to something that they're more challenged by than something that's kind of like,
yeah,
a dry talk on the specific mechanics of test driven development or whatever. That's been done like
yeah,
1,000 times before and it's no longer
yeah.
controversial. So, yeah, I mean, I
And
think
the specific mechanics of test-driven development are pretty much established. There are
exactly.
different
Yeah.
tools to get there, but it's like we don't necessarily like to go and watch any of those things.
Yeah.
As you say, it's not that being challenged is a good thing. Learning things is obviously a big part of what people expect out of conference talks, but being challenged on your understanding of the world
Mm,
is we had the accessibility talks. We had Padma last year talk about willfully introducing friction into your applications as like, it really was challenging your assumptions about what
mm,
friction is and when it can actually be used for good. So, those kinds of things are always interesting. So if you've got, what you might consider challenging or controversial, like these are all things I don't know what the conference looks like until I have all of the submissions in front of me and I try and piece together something that is technical, that is soft, that is like cohesive. That like
mm,
sometimes there will be talks that lean one off the other. We had the front end accessibility talk, but we also had the back end accessibility talk last year, just to kind of see different again perspectives of the same kind of topic. So
mm.
don't and we spoke about this with Rissa. Don't let the fact that not you don't consider yourself an expert in the field stop you from presenting a topic. It could be your take, it could be your position, it could be your understanding, it could be your enthusiasm that really sells something to people. So even something like Livewire, which I know that you've been diving into now, like people
Mm.
didn't get that when
Yeah.
Caleb first shipped it. He saw this thing called Phoenix Live View and he's like, we can build that for Laravel, and he built it and he demoed it and everyone was like, this is amazing, but it's not for me. And
Yeah.
here we are, 7 years later, 6 years later, and it's like really popular. And especially with some of the controversy and like for backend developers like me, you and I had this discussion just last night,
Mm.
I don't want to ship in the tool chain and learn, other front end technologies when I want to build what realistically amounts to a fancy CRUD application where
Yeah.
all I'm doing is creating some records, updating some records, deleting some records. I don't need to build in this whole other tool chain. So being able to just stay in something that I'm familiar with for those situations is really handy. So
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was definitely in that camp. I was definitely not for me. That's crazy. Uh, I'm old enough to remember doing similar things by hand in jQuery, where you would make a request to a server, extract a piece of HTML from a document, and then stitch it back in. Um,
mhm.
but yeah, I definitely I've been playing around with it for a little while. Just I mean, and I was speaking to Josh Hanley about it actually yesterday because I was
Yeah.
stuck in a 5 plus years of playing around with React has kind of like twisted my thinking on the front end in a particular way.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, and Josh has basically just said to me, think of it like Blade Plus. Like, stop thinking of it as a front end framework and think of it more as Blade plus some
Yeah.
sprinkles. Which,
Yeah.
when you kind of think that way, and then it tends to make a little bit more sense. Although I still think I'm doing it very very poorly because I think I bring a lot a lot of front end development baggage to the party,
Yeah.
which I think things aren't working the way that I expect them to. But that's not Livewire's fault. That's just 5 years of being deep in React. Um,
Yep.
but yeah, I mean,
Absolutely.
again, these sort of get back to the point. I think, yeah, a bit of controversy in your talk is good, but that kind of also means that I've said it before that the 30-minute talk is going to be reductive. It's not going to be it's not going to be a deep dive. It can't be. Um, and a conference full of 30-minute talks is really a conference full of slightly longer than lightning talks, really. And that's not a bad thing. Trying to introduce as many
Yeah.
ideas as we can in the shortest amount of time possible. Um, but yeah, again, I think me being able to mine into that and see whether or not there's another talk, or because I have to build a talk for it, I'm producing content anyway. And if it doesn't go
Hmm.
anywhere, then it's a pile of blog posts or a pile of LinkedIn posts, or um, you know it help me refine it will help me refine my thinking when I'm actually coaching people on this stuff as well, so
Yeah.
I can perhaps deliver answers to difficult questions faster, which means people get more
Yeah.
value for their money in the time that they're spending with me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's the other thing, learning or teaching something, standing in front of an audience and teaching them something helps to reinforce the
Mm,
idea for yourself as well, and really um, solidify your understanding of that topic. So,
yeah.
even if it's something that is new to you, keep at it. You're going to dig into it. You're going to learn about it so that you can put together a really informative talk, and that's what you end up with. And as
Yeah,
we
well, we
said, you
spoke about
don't
that with Rissel
don't
last
have
week.
to put a heaps of time. Right, exactly. You don't have to put heaps of time into it. You don't have to have a fully baked talk, just an idea, and you have to have enough of an idea to sell that to, whether it's me as the conference organizer or any other conference that you have to submit to, that, this is the one that you should pick. And then you've got heaps of lead time to then put that together.
Mm, yeah, for sure. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at with my ripples. It hasn't been amazing from a financial front, but there's definitely green shoots there. I think time of year is a big thing. I mean,
Hmm.
we're sort of very close to the end of the Australian financial year. We do have to say Australian financial year because, as it turns out, people in 25 countries listen to this now, which is a little bit mind blowing. Um, so people's budgets are a little bit stretched, and so it's a good time to get ahead. I mean, if you're in the consulting space, it's a good time to get ahead and for sort of July, so that you're considered at the front end of people's budgets, not at the back end where people are trying to make a
Yeah,
very small amount of money last until the end of the year so they can hit their financial goals.
yeah,
I think next financial year will be pretty big for me on that front. There's definitely a lot of opportunity um, there, and yeah. Other than that, just focusing down on some ideas for. I want to get a couple more talks submitted if I can. I've got a few ideas rolling around in my head, and then getting on with hopefully getting on with preparing a talk for 2024. So on that,
excellent.
you've got some stuff to share. How's your stuff been
Yeah,
going, mate?
my stuff has been going very well. So we teased on Twitter some of the branding. So we've launched with like this brown and yellow kind of placeholder branding. We
Mm,
we are we are not using anything quite. I mean, if you saw the branding from last year, which was like full color, the whole rainbow, um, we are not going to go back to just black and white basically. So we as I said, I think I've said previously, we are all in on this make waves idea. Kind of building on from what became the unofficial kind of theme of 2023 in ripples, and so that's like full full steam ahead at the moment. So Nucleus, as I said at the top of the show, is just working through some of the finer aspects of the brand launch and the website launch. We'll have some details around tickets, when tickets will go on sale as well at that point. But everything, the full breakdown of obviously where it is. We know when it is. It's the 7th and 8th of November. We know it's in Brisbane, but we'll have all the details around when tickets go on sale, when um, where it is, the venue, which I'm very excited about. It's a great spot.
Mm.
Um, get on the website laracon.au if you want to know more. Submissions are still open. If you're still, we've talked about it the last couple of episodes. We're always looking for ideas. The submissions are open still until the 17th of May, so plenty of time to come up with an idea or two and send that through. But yeah, we've got a bigger venue this year. Where we're looking at like 30% bigger or something like that than what we were last year, 25-30%. So more room for more people. We're packing way more in. We've said before that we're catering both days. We're doing after dark on Thursday. We're doing a networking event straight after the conference on Friday. Plan to arrive early. Plan to leave late. Bring your family. Brisbane's a really nice place for getting around with your family. There's lots of stuff to do. Bluey's World opens, depending on who you ask, in August or the week of Laracon, so it might be a bit of a madhouse there. But if you've got young kids, Bluey's World is a great place to be. An hour down the road to the Gold Coast, can't complain there. We are very much in the heart of the CBD, so very easy to get there. Accommodation nearby. We're putting together all kinds of things in terms of we'll have discounts for AirTrain as well. So getting from the airport to the CBD will be easy. And then, where can you go if you want to eat or drink or hang out? We're going to have stuff on Wednesday night for attendees. We're just trying to figure out exactly how we kind of quote unquote ticket that, just more from a logistics perspective for the venue. So they know, how many people to expect and how many staff to have on and things like that. So the ticket purchase form will be a bit more comprehensive this year in terms of
Mm.
like we're actually going to ask questions. We want to try and get some demographic data as well because it's nice to have that information so we know for this year what kind of people are there for next year. What kind of talks do we need to aim for, what kind of topics, what kind of skill levels are we targeting. It's obviously difficult. We can put together a laracon in terms of this is what it looks and it feels like, but in terms of the audience in specific, if we put a heap of advanced topics in there, is that going to be good for a mostly junior audience? Last year we had a lot of first timers. Whether or not they were like new people or just new to the conference is unclear. So
Mm.
don't get upset when you see this wall of questions when you when you submit. I will try and keep them short and easy to answer, multiple choice and things like that. So yeah, we've got accommodation discounts organised with at one primary venue, which will be about 5 minutes from the venue, and then a second one, which is a little bit further away, and then a whole bunch of other places if you want to stay in other parts that are sort of comfortably walking distance, but a little bit further afield that are close to the venue, that are close to train stations and things like that. So heaps and heaps and heaps of stuff that we're going to do. We're going to try and make this as action packed and as um, socially energized as possible. So yeah, keep your eyes out. I think sometime next week, like this week, in the context of like when you hear this episode, we will have more details out in the wild. So we're just rushing to the finish line there on the website. So yeah,
Yeah.
Twitter, LinkedIn, if that's where you want to follow, subscribe for updates on the website. You will be the first to know when this stuff happens. And make sure you go onto our Twitter and look at the branding video that we shared. Watch it all the way to the end. Great.
Uh, yeah, I do know where the location is, and like connectivity wise, it's really really great. I mean, I know from some of the guys in my team that came to Sydney last year, um, it was a fair hike for them to get from their hotel just because of where Monkey Bar was. Um, there, like, there's public transport on the doorstep of this place. It's near a bunch of great sort of local watering holes, fantastic local food. I mean, Brisbane kind of got a bit of a stealth foodie scene and bar scene and cafe scene, so um, kind of ticks all the boxes there, which is really good. Um, Excited to see people um, come to my hometown. It'll be it'll be great. Um, I'm hoping to be able to send my whole team. This is not a promise if anyone from my team is listening, but there is definitely a proposal forward to try and bring everyone along. Um, and yeah, any of the other um, businesses in Brisbane, it's kind of rare in PHP conference space for Brisbane to get like a marquee conference like this. Usually you've got to go to Sydney or Melbourne. So it's a good opportunity to come out of the woodwork and socialize and listen to some great talks. And um, yeah, I think it's going to be huge. Definitely, from what I've heard, it's going to be big, like twice as big as last year in
Yeah.
terms of just
And you haven't
stuff.
heard, like, you've heard
Half
some
of it.
stuff, but you haven't heard as much as you think you have. So, yeah, I'm very, very much looking forward to putting this on this year. I'm excited to get up to Brisbane for a week
Mm,
and check it out. I have locked in multiple speakers already. So keep submitting. We've still got 12 slots um, to hand out to people. Trying to kind of, I know that the submissions are open until the 17th, and I'm not going to um, pick all of the speakers before then, but I'm picking a number of speakers that I know are going to get people excited about the conference and get them to sort of come and see what we're all about. So I've also been pretty excited by I've been keeping an eye on the subscribers for the mailing list, and just kind of excited to see the kinds of um, businesses that are Brisbane local. So we are touching on a lot of businesses in Brisbane that do seem, or in Queensland that do seem to use Laravel. So it's exciting to be able to meet them and establish those connections with those people as well. Which we had a lot of people that were in Sydney purely because I think the event was in Sydney, and hopefully those people come and travel up to Brisbane. It's not as bad as you think it is. It's quite lovely, and the people there are lovely, and the whole experience is pretty nice as well. So yeah, definitely looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to not have to talk in vague terms and like be very cautious about what I say and how I say it, because I know that Stephen Reese Carter is always trying to scope out where this venue is. So yeah, I'll be
yeah,
glad to not have to be so careful about what I say.
yeah, yeah. I he's a menace for sure.
I got
uh,
I tweeted about this the other day. I got them. You can hear it rustling here. I got my little handcuffs ready to go. So
what's that about?
I you see there was so we did some vox pops last year. Jack did some vox pops for us to use for our kind of event announcement this year. And so as I was going through those vox pops and stitching together this kind of trailer, I suppose, for Laracon AU, there was just something in there that I thought, I enjoy what he has said in isolation. But the first thing that popped into my head was I need to get some handcuffs, and I need to put a gag into this video as a result of it. So yeah, I've kind of stitched together loosely what this video looks like. I need to get some more B-roll into it, and I need to record like my bits, the things that I'm gonna say, which is like, it's a 2-minute video. I promise we won't keep you forever. It's just going to talk about what the event is, what to expect if you're a first timer, not to be afraid to come, and things like that. So
mm,
very look, there's just so much going on at the moment. I'm trying to keep tabs on the venue and what marketing stuff we're doing, and just planning like that. And people think that planning the conference is just a madhouse of like stuff all the time. It really does ebb and flow. There are periods of time where it's like put heaps of time in and do lots of stuff, and stay up late and get up early and work through lunch breaks and stuff to get it done. But there are like weeks at a time where not much happens. So
Mm. Is moving it to a new city like
it's fun.
causing like because I'd imagine that whilst it was in Sydney, like a lot of the relationships are already established, and so is there a challenge in moving it to a new city that like increases the workload, or is it pretty much just clean sheet of
Not
paper every year?
Yeah, not really. I mean, it was easy because we knew what we were getting in terms of the venue. So I knew that the Monkey Bar crew were amazing, and that they would look after us there. So my like main thing at the moment is we're going to a new theater with a new technical crew, and
Mm,
just figuring out what the working relationship is. In terms of like vendors and stuff, we're still going to use some of the vendors that we had in Sydney because we're happy with the stuff that they've done. The people that printed all of our t-shirts and speaker gifts and all of that kind of stuff, um, last year, they're actually based in Brisbane, so that actually makes it easier because they don't have to ship things from Brisbane to Sydney. And then, like, we're flying up the same video crew that we had last year. We're flying up the same photographer that we had last year. So it actually worked out to be cheaper, to like more economical for us to bring up the same crews and pay for their flights and pay for their accommodation than it was to get someone based in Brisbane, which I thought was odd. But I thought, well, I was about the same. And I'm like, well, if it's going to cost me the same, I'm going to go with
mm,
people that I know and that I have working relationships with. And, we'll bring them along to events and look after them while they're there. So
yeah.
sounds good to me.
So, have there been any challenges on the CFP front? I know you've been sort of banging the CFP drum pretty hard.
Yeah, I mean, like our numbers are not where they were at last year, and I don't know what that is, why that is. I've seen a lot of people that submitted last year have submitted again this year. Yeah, which is fun, but like we haven't seen the same volume of talk submissions either this year, which is the main thing that was surprising to me. I thought we'd get a lot of people put their talks in and things like that. So it'll be interesting to see where we end up. We've still got another 3-4 weeks of submissions, and yeah, we'll go from there and have a bit of fun. Um, I'm sure everything will work out in the end. So,
Yeah, yeah. It is.
for those of you who don't know, we will pay to fly you into Brisbane, and we will put you up for 3 nights in a hotel, and we will feed you. So,
Mm.
as long as you can get time off from your day job or whatever it is that you do, like, it's not it's not a horrible experience coming to speak at Laracon.
It's worth speaking to your boss too, like because you are. Yes, you go to speak at a conference so that you can put yourself out there and build your brand and your standing in the community. But you're also an ambassador for the company that you work for. So it's there is a there is an argument to be had with your boss about giving you the time to go and do the traveling,
Mm,
um, because aside from my team and maybe the product team, not many people in my company knew anything about what I was talking about, even after they watched the talk. But the level of excitement and the fact that the whole company felt like they had an ambassador on what is a global conference. Like it's not
mm,
just some backwater meetup in the middle of nowhere. This is like a fully authorized piece of a
yeah,
massive global.
one of the big four.
Yeah, um, that's huge. And it's a huge feather in the cap of the companies that you work for. So if you're sort of shy about it because you're not sure your boss will let you go and promote yourself at a conference, then it's definitely worth sort of having that conversation. You'll probably find that
Mm.
it works out to your
Yeah,
advantage.
it's always a strange one as well. Like they're out there being an ambassador for themselves, but also, as you say, an ambassador for their brand or the company that they work for. But if you're the kind of company that is worried that like sending someone to a professional development conference to improve their skills is going to take them away from your company, then
Mm,
there are potentially other considerations to be had. Like they're going to learn. Um, you know, they're going to appreciate that, oh, my company is investing in me to go to this event, to learn things, to, meet other people, to, see what they're all about. Um, I don't think it's like I find it extremely unlikely that you're going to meet someone and immediately you're going to go and want to work for them. I don't think there's enough context for that kind of stuff that you would flee your job. Like you are sending your people to improve their skills so that they can bring that back and then improve what they're doing in their day to day with you. So
Yeah, what's the saying? What if my people learn something and then they leave, or what if they don't and then they stay?
yeah, that's
Like
right.
it's
Yeah,
and look, I think sometimes people can feel a little bit awkward about asking their boss to go and like get paid time off work to not work, but yeah, like I said, you are flying the flag for the company that you work for. You
mm,
can give your company shout outs on stage. Most of what you
hmm,
ultimately talk about is the stuff you do in your day to day anyway, right? So it's
yeah,
um, you
yeah,
know either implicitly or not, you're talking about the company that you work for when you're up on
yeah.
stage. So
And like we talk about personal development, but think of it as more professional development.
mm,
We have I working in the finance industry now. Like our people in the business, they have actually mandate a number of hours a year that they must do professional development. Like they have to go to things, they have to keep their accreditations up to date. It's just part of the course in finance that you go and do these things in tech. It's like, well, I'm not going to send my people to these things because like they're going to want to go and work for someone else. It's like not what this is about, not at all.
no,
So
no. I mean, and again, like, yeah, you might meet somebody, and in a few years' time, that relationship might turn into something. But it's again, this is the whole
yeah,
ripples
in a
thing,
few
right? It's
years,
it's nobody is offering you a job
yeah,
after seeing you speak on stage for 30 minutes. That's
that's right.
that would be somewhat wild.
Hmm.
But yeah, cool. Well, how are we going for time?
I think we're good to wrap.
Awesome. Well, this has just been Michael and I rabbiting on about things. Like Michael said, we have a guest lined up for the next show, which would be really exciting. Someone local in Australia, so we don't have to either get up really early or have them stay up really late,
Tab
which will
lane, yeah.
will be will be a nice change. We've got a couple of other people too who we've reached out to, so there's a bit of a pipeline of people who want to come and tell their story. If you have been enjoying this and think you have something to contribute that you'd like to talk about, you're welcome to come and take over the podcast for an episode. Just reach out to
Hmm.
Michael or I on Twitter or Telegram or something. Um, yeah, actually, I was really excited to see that we've broken through 500 listeners. So that's
Yeah, we did that. We hit that milestone this week, just gone. So thank you for those of you who are listening, even if you are only listening to listen to our guests. We're I mean that's what the show's here is to
mm,
to bring these people to the fore and have them tell their stories and see that there are other people out there that are just putting themselves out there and seeing what's coming their way as a result.
yeah. All right. Well, you can find us on ripples.fm or on Twitter and LinkedIn and all the other normal places. Um, until next time, I've been Greg,
I have been Michael.
and we'll see you all in a fortnight.
Bye for now.